Hello, welcome to week 11 in our subject forensic ballistics. Our topic for today, firearms collection procedure and marking of physical evidence like firearms, fired bullets, and cartridge cases. So we are going to discuss the procedures in collecting firearms evidence. And after this lesson, you are expected to be able to illustrate proper markings on physical evidence like firearms, fired bullets, and cartridge cases. So let us start with firearms evidence collection procedure. All the firearms evidence are generally encountered in crimes against persons such as assault and homicide. Firearms may be found in other types of cases like burglary, rape, or narcotics violations. In addition to bullet and cartridge case comparison, function examinations in distance determinations. Trace evidence such as blood, hair, or fiber may be adhering to exposed surfaces, all of which may yield valuable information to an investigator on his case. Ensure the maximum value of this evidence is obtained. It first must be properly identified, preserved, and packaged. These steps should be documented by good notes and photographs. Photos must contain a scale to show size. So let us start with firearms. General considerations and precautions. As important as physical evidence or fingerprints may be, safety is of greater concern. When practicable, always render a weapon safe to handle before proceeding with further investigation or examination, but with caution so as to preserve any possible DNA trace or fingerprint evidence that may be present. In unloading the weapon, in case of revolvers, if cocked, cautiously uncock the weapon using the narrowed areas if possible. Make 2 marks on the cylinder, one on each side of the top strap, to indicate the chamber that is in the firing position. If uncocked, these marks will indicate the chamber found index in front of the firing pin. Fired and unfired cartridges should be individually packaged by placing them in soft tissue or cotton, sealed in a pill box or envelope, and pertinent information placed on the container. If you mark the weapon for identification, do so somewhere on the frame where it doesn't destroy overall appearance, example inside cylinder tray or under grip. As an alternative to engraving on the weapon, use the serial number for later identification. You may also affix a tag to the trigger guard. For semi-automatics, note the positions of any manual safety devices or cocking indicators. Carefully disengage the magazine and remove it from the weapon. Open the action and visually check the chamber for a cartridge or cartridge case. If it is possible, lock the slide to the rear, keeping the action in the open position. If not, let the action close, then engage any manual safety devices that may be on the weapon. Make sure that no live cartridge is left in the chamber. If you mark the weapon for identification, do so somewhere on a part not readily removable from the weapon. The magazine, if found in weapon, may be included in the same item as the weapon for submission to the laboratory. However, if it is found not in the weapon, it should be submitted as a separate item. As an alternative to engraving on the weapon, use the serial number for later identification. If fingerprinting is requested, the cartridges may be left in the magazine, but should not be left in the chamber. For shotguns and rifles, these are handled in similar manner to handguns listed above, or those that we have discussed. Safety and preservation of physical evidence should always be considered. All weapons should be submitted to the property room or crime laboratory unloaded. The firearm should be properly strapped with a nylon tie for safety. If the firearm cannot be unloaded, or if it is unknown if it is loaded, the contributor shall contact the firearms examiner prior to the arrival at the property room or laboratory, so he or she may assist with the firearm. Next, we have DNA, trace evidence, and fingerprints. After the weapon is in safe condition, examine it for trace evidence material, sample blood, hair, fiber, and tissue. If in doubt about proper processing, do not proceed further until contacting the crime laboratory and discussing the situation with the firearms examiner. Rubber gloves and masks should be worn when DNA is collected or fingerprinting is needed. Gloves must be changed with each piece of evidence handled. Next, packaging and delivery of firearms to the laboratory. Personal delivery is the preferred means of transportation to the laboratory. If the weapon must be shipped, it is imperative that it must be properly packaged. It should be placed in a heavy corrugated container and secured in a place to prevent shifting with the container. Rifles and shotguns should not be dismantled before packaging, as this could alter their evidentiary value. All firearms, both handguns and long guns, shall be packaged upon submittal to the crime laboratory. Fit packaging for firearms include boxes, manila paper, envelopes, and paper wrapping. Firearms recovered in water should be submitted in the same water and a watertight container. However, firearms examiner must be contacted prior to submission if it is unknown whether the firearm is loaded. Let us move to projectiles, general considerations and precautions. Bullets should always be handled with the utmost care to avoid destroying the microscopic striations on the bullet. They should be packed, sealed in a paper envelope or pill box, and the container marked for identification. The bullet should not be marked due to a possibility of destroying valuable evidences. Plastic or glass airtight containers should never be used for bullets or firearms. They could allow moisture to cause corrosion of identifiable detail on the bullet and rust on a firearm. For projectile embedded in a wood, plastic, or others, unless absolutely necessary, do not attempt to dig out projectile. Remove the portion of material in which the projectiles are embedded and submit the entire piece to the crime laboratory. If practical, remove a section of the material. The projectile or projectiles should be recovered by removing the material adjacent to the projectile to prevent damage to the evidence. For projectile or projectiles embedded in a person's body, X-rays should be taken to locate the position of the projectiles. They should be removed with rubber tip forceps or by using just fingers to prevent mutilation of the projectile. If asked, doctors are usually willing to comply with the request. Caution should be taken as some projectiles have sharp edges. The projectile should not be rinsed off. Rinsing will be done in the PNP crime laboratory. Now let us have cartridge and ammunition components. For unfired cartridges, if relatively few, these should be packaged in some manner as projectiles. Larger quantities should be grouped together as to location of recovery and may be listed as single item. The larger quantities should be packaged in cardboard or wooden containers. The containers should be marked for identifications. Live ammunition must be personally delivered to the crime laboratory by the investigator. For fired cartridge cases, these should be handled in the same manner as projectiles. Remember that proper packaging prevents the destruction of valuable evidence. For shot shell wads, an attempt should be made to locate wads fired from shot shells. When a shot shell is fired, the wad or wads travel along with or behind the shot charge. When the wad or wads are located, they should be handled exactly as projectiles. In cases involving relatively close muzzle to target distance, wadding may be found in the victim's body. Now let us move to distance determination. Muzzle to the target distance can be invaluable to a case if certain condition exists. To get the most from this evidence, it must be properly submitted. The firearm must be recovered and submitted with any unfired cartridges found at the crime scene. Let us proceed to marking of physical evidence like firearms, fired bullets, and cartridge cases. Fired bullets should be marked by means of a stylus or pointed instrument by the recovering officer with his initial or the initials of the victim or suspect on the nose or its anterior portions. The marking should include the corresponding time and date of recovery. In cases wherein the nose or anterior portion of the fired bullet is badly damaged or deformed, the officer's initials should be placed at the base. Never in any instance should the initial and date of recovery be placed on the cylindrical or peripheral surface of the bullets because it is in this portion of the bullet that contains the rifling marks or striations, which are important for the firearm examiners when the evidence or exhibit is scrutinized under the bullet comparison microscope. The cylindrical or peripheral surface of the bullet is engraved with the rifling marks. With regards to fired cartridge cases, the best areas or portions where the officer can place his marks are inside near the open mouth, outside near the open mouth, and on the body of the fired cartridge case. Never place your marks on the base of the fired cartridge case. It is in this part that contains the breech face markings. These marks are vital to firearm experts When examining the cartridge case under the bullet comparison microscope and are used as basis in determining as to whether or not a certain cartridge case was fired from a particular gun. Never use universal markings such as X or any common marks which may lead to confuse the officer. The suspected firearm, besides noting down its pertinent features, should be marked with the initials of the recovering officer on the three main parts, such as the barrel, cylinder, and the frame, as in a revolver. In the case of a pistol, the initials should be placed on the barrel, slide in frame, or receiver. On a rifle, the initials should be placed on the barrel, upper receiver, lower receiver, and bolt. Aside from marking these three main parts, an identification tag bearing the complete description of the firearm, such as the type, make, model, caliber, serial number, time and date of recovery, name of victim, name of suspect, and other features of value must also be placed. When a firearm does not have serial number, as you will encounter in some cases, it becomes necessary to mark it for future and ready identification. When marking a suspected firearm, always mark the portion of the weapon that cannot be easily replaced, like the barrel and receiver. Never mark the stock alone, as it can easily be replaced. Clothing should be air-dried before packaging. After drying, clean paper should be placed over its surface. This is to prevent destruction of evidence by rubbing off other areas of clothing. The clothing should then be individually packaged in clean paper, sealed and marked for identification. When projectiles have passed through a garment or garments, a good photograph of the bullet hole positions in the victim is desirable. A scale should be used in these photos. Always submit all of the unfired ammunition with the case, as use of identical ammunition is an essential part of distance determination. This ends our discussion. For your activity, it all pertains to illustration and drawings. So my advice is for you to read carefully the direction before doing it. Please use pencil in drawing in a clean short band paper. Thank you and good day.